Everyone, my name is Adam Michael Anthony Simpson and you're watching my YouTube channel, Adam M.A. Simpson. This is part 2 of my interview with Professor Timothy Pinkston from the University of Southern California, that's the USC. Professor Pinkston is also the George Pfleger Chaired Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering, as well as the Vice Dean for Faculty Affairs. So he's very important at USC, as well as nationally, internationally in his contributions to, computer engineering. Please enjoy Professor Pinkston's explanation of his work and how it impacts society. Now pivoting into the second half of this interview, which is the impact of your research to society at large. So you've already kind of addressed the impact to the field, but now we want to kind of educate the, people who know nothing about computer engineering, electrical engineering. So, Professor Pinkston, your work has contributed so much to people's everyday lives. Your research has made major contributions to, as you said, deadlock-free adaptive routing, router microarchitecture, and interconnection networks. Could you give us the abridged explanation of your research?
Sure. Let me start by saying that without a doubt, we live in exciting times to be in the engineering field, as in my field of computing field, computer architecture specifically. So there are innumerable societal challenges, including those defined by the National Academy of Engineering, so-called wicked problems that are in need of advancements in engineering and computing, more specifically in my area. Such grand challenges are aimed at significantly improving humans and the planet's equality of life and prosperity, broadly spanning energy and sustainability, something that you're very familiar with in your field, civil infrastructure and security, healthcare and medicine, better enabling scientific discovery. These are the sets of challenges that we're facing as a society that the National Academy of Engineering, NAE, has discovered. So all of these areas benefit greatly from computing and various form factors. You see it as a layperson with your cell phone, and other smart devices, with various form factors and functionalities, capabilities, and performance. Ranging from low power embedded sensors in various things, in civil infrastructures that implantables, handhelds, Fitbits, smart devices, laptops, tablets, even to the higher performance, and power efficient cloud and data centers that are on the backside of things. The highest performing supercomputer systems. All of these various ways, entities are, comprise the vast computing ecosystem that is continuing to expand and is actually affecting people's lives. And so my work is in how do we continue to advance computing. And so computing these days there's parallel processing. There's the ability to have multiple cores on a single chip, and multiple chips in a given system, and multiple computing servers comprising a broader cloud computer, for instance. So if you have this parallelism, there needs to be a way of moving data, not only computing in parallel, but also communicating things in parallel. And that's what my field is dealing with, interconnection networks. So if you think about a highway system or any kind of a vehicular traffic system, you have roads and you have on-ramps and bridges and narrow and wide freeways to allow for high throughput and moving, in this case, automobiles.
Yes.
Could be trucks or of various transforms and so think of that same scenario or analogize that with what's going on within a computer, where you're trying to ship data between different components, whether it's a processor or memory or different GPUs or different other components, right? And so how do we design that traffic system, whether it's the roads, the rules of entering into the roads, whether it's a stoplight at the beginning to reduce congestion, and to how do we try to minimize the probability of gridlock, and that's the deadlocking component of routing.
Okay, wow, I finally understand.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm dealing with my research deals with how to increase the traffic flow within computers, just as we would try to design as a civil engineer.
Okay.
Design, a city in the roads and smart roads, smart,
yes,
civil infrastructure.
Yes.
Right. To enable for greater throughput and low latency, if you will, higher performance communication of traffic.
Okay, so you're building better computer highways.
There you go. Computer highways within the computer itself.
Yes,
as opposed
exactly.
to outside the computer,
Yes.
Because there's also the field of networking, which is how do you design the networks, across the globe.
Yeah.
Which could include satellites, but also, cabling, transcontinental kind of networking, between networks, internetworking as well as inter-computer kind of communication. That's an extension of what I'm doing. I deal with the computing and the communication highways within computer systems themselves.
Oh, okay, wow. Thank you for that explanation. This is opening my mind up to what you do. I'm not a computer engineer, so I kind of understand your field now. So
please check out my merch. I am an amateur artist. Been doing art ever since I was a kid. I really wanted to do a minor in art during my engineering education, but I couldn't fit in the art classes. And here are some of my work. I'm doing prints on t-shirts, sweaters, and on canvases, and even tapestries and towels. So please check the link in the description box. And here's an example of a design that I've done. This one is called Cortex. It's supposed to be like an artistic impression of the brain cortex. And I also have my, logo in the back, so you can recognize who did this piece. And if you want to see, I actually do the art pieces. This is another painting called Imagine, and it's an ode to BLM, Black Lives Matter. So please check it out and let me know if you like my art and this interview in the comments below.
You've done a very good job at explaining your research, but if you can speak about your research on the society level, how does your work impact the everyday person? Maybe as you brought up phones or Fitbits, how can you explain, how your work will make somebody's everyday life more efficient or...
Right. So the kind of networks and the routing algorithms, deadlock-free routing algorithms that I investigate and try to advance are actually things that are used in computing systems today. And so there's this thing called Moore's law.
Yes.
In performance every 18 to 2 years. That's actually the integration of transistors on a chip. Right? But that translates to an expectation by the users of increased performance, right? At that same kind of pace. And so there's been multiple thresholds that we've had to come to meet to sustain that expectation. One of them, as I said, is parallel processing, right? And so the work that I do help people to be able to transmit video, as we're doing now.
Yes.
There's an abundance of data being transmitted right now as we speak.
Yes.
And that's enabled and to be processed, right? There's video processing that's being done.
Yes.
And there's multiple, graphical processing units, GPUs, right? And there are components that are shipping data within the chip in the board right now as we speak, and some of those things that's enabled by the interconnection networks within them and the routing of data within them. So although you don't see it, there is what's going on behind the scenes, the kind of work that I and others do on the design of computers, computer architecture, right? The architecting, the hardware of the computer system. One of which is the communication architecture, the interconnection network that is enabling these people in the world to benefit from everyday lives.
Yes.
Smartphone, or as we're doing through a computer that's processing things at these ultra high speeds.
Yes.
Our computers, by the way, as you very well know, and probably your audience knows, has more computing power than the supercomputers of 25 years ago.
Yes.
And so those advancements are made by the kind of research that my group and other groups have been doing over
Wow.
years.
And thank you so much, because we're able to do research. Not just like in computer engineering, but as researchers in the wet lab, like what I do in environmental chemistry kinds of stuff. It allows us to do work a lot faster because our analytical instruments can run faster with a more efficient computer.
So that's the scientific discovery component of the the National Academy of Engineering's grand challenges. As I mentioned before, the civil infrastructure grand challenge. It's also how do we enable the scientific discovery, such as computing and supercomputers, as I mentioned before.
Thank you. And okay, so what does your research mean to you, considering the pandemic and the necessity of our connectedness via the internet, especially for education having to be done remotely this past year?
Yeah, this has been a tough year, and I just want to commiserate with you a bit, or show our sympathies, because some families were highly afflicted. Afflicted by the pandemic, by the COVID, and disrupted, and our hearts go out to them in terms of their losses and maybe lingering effects of COVID. But also for all of us who maybe didn't get yet affected, but were affected in terms of our personal lives and the way that we, the social distancing, the lack of being able to hug a loved one or to visit them or to travel, the disruption to our lives. So thankfully, I work in a field which has enabled us to, in some ways, continue with this as a computing platforms that we use. This ability to talk right now virtually. So I'm happy to be in a field and contributing to a field that better enables societal challenges to be met, including the computing challenges and the communication challenges. Again, my heart goes out to all of us. I've been affected. My family. I've actually had one or more persons in my very extended family who's been affected in terms of passing by COVID.
Same here.
Right, and so we hope that we will soon, move forward. So, of course, people who work in immunoengineering or immunotherapies and that side of healthcare, we're very grateful for them. Research and things that are being done in academia to to move, advance those fields are well appreciated. And so I'm happy to be in a field of computing, which has helped us in different ways to sort of continue our ability to do work, and of course to teach and to do education.
Yes.
Students in our classes learning virtually, and we hope to come at the end of this pandemic with an enhanced way to deliver, coursework and do education and do research. To have a lower footprint, a carbon footprint. Maybe it was the planet screaming out saying, "Hey, make a change." And hopefully we're paying attention to that, and we're going to be doing more things with the blended versions of virtual and in-person, physical kind of ways of doing business.
Yes, the pandemic has really done a number on society, and my heart goes out to even everyone that their families, loved ones, friends, colleagues were negatively impacted by the pandemic. But luckily we're able to stay connected using like Zoom as we're recording right now. I know if the pandemic as it is now was happened in a time when we didn't have these programs to rely on, I don't know what we'd be doing.
Exactly.
So now I'd like to get into my favorite question of the interview, which is what misconceptions of academia would you like to dispel for the public?
Okay, Adam, I hope you don't mind if I sort of get on a soapbox here and say something that's very near and dear to my heart, because I think this fits within this question. And I've said this in many ways and in other venues, and so please bear with me. I believe that it is the job of academia not only to discover and disseminate knowledge, as we were talking about earlier in this interview, but also, and most importantly, to train and develop the next generation of the workforce. So maybe the public think that we're just an ivory tower in academia doing things, but no, we're actually training. I mean, hopefully, people's tuition is actually, money well spent, because you're getting trained and developed to be able to make contributions to the rest of the world. Like I said, my legacy, my chief legacy, is the students that have come through that I've affected and touched in my research lab, in the classes, and that sort of thing. So we're here to actually, train and develop the next generations. But the lack of a diverse workforce sets us, behind in being able to approach problems in engineering problems from a wide-ranging and useful perspective. So we need to dispel the false narrative that oftentimes pervades academia, either both within academic institutions, but also perceived perhaps by the public, which is that excellence is somehow compromised by diversity. Reality is just the opposite. Excellence is enhanced by diversity.
Of course.
Without the engagement of diverse thinking and perspectives brought to bear on addressing challenging engineering and computing problems that broadly affect, as we were talking about earlier in this interview, that broadly affect society and are pervasive in many segments of our society, how can the best and most creative solutions be discovered and applied for the benefit of all humanity? Likewise, if segments of our society's population are not equitably included and engaged in opportunities and access for making and benefiting technological contributions, how can our society as a whole make significant progress towards reaching its full potential? Right. So these questions and the responses to them, were addressed in a panel that took place last month in March, that I organized and moderated on the issue of valuing equity, diversity, and inclusion within our computing society, computing field, that is, and engineering field more broadly, right? It speaks to the importance of this topic, in fact, and I think that all of us in the engineering computing fields, especially not just you and me, but especially those who are not among marginalized, minoritized, and vulnerable populations, that they should and can play a significant role in advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I could go on and on. I can say more about this topic, but really the question comes down to how can we advance as a society without doing these making sure that all segments of our society are included. And so if we were to have any hope of truly designing and developing smart cities, as we were talking about before, and sustainable infrastructures, intelligent environments, effective cyber physical systems, broad-reaching Internet of Things, AI for social good, or any other new or emerging revolutionary technology or advancement, we must embrace and engage and train a truly diverse community of persons in computing and in the workforce, comprised of persons from all of our demographic populations. And so that's something that I think we need to dispel.
Yes.
This notion that you're going to be compromising excellence in what you're able to achieve as a top-ranked university if you were to try to broaden the field or broaden people to have access to your institution or to a particular field of computing or engineering. We need to dispel that.
We need to.
Yes.
I completely agree. I can't tell you how many times I've seen some really good work being done by researchers. However, the approach coming from a developing country would not be, it would not work because the researcher has never experienced that, background. So it's very difficult if you're not from a specific background, or if you might not include the work done by social scientists who can, contextualize those backgrounds so that engineers can solve problems in a useful manner. So what you just said, really resonated with me. And yeah, we really do need more diverse students in education and higher education, so that we can have an America and USA that we all want. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
And not only students,
faculty,
but faculty, researchers, staff, administrators that are reflective of the broader society.
Definitely.
And for that to happen, as you said, there needs to be this pipeline, if you will, of broader persons coming in to the field, advancing through the ranks, getting their bachelor's, getting their master's, PhD, and perhaps postdocs, and then entering the faculty ranks, succeeding there, getting the proper mentoring, as we were talking about earlier, what to do as a junior faculty. And so that's needed as well.
Wow. You've brought up all of the all of the discussion points that I've tried to, bring up on this channel passively, but you just brought them up. So I'm so excited to have this episode up on.
There's so much more to.
Pardon?
There's so much more to say. This could
be
episode 1 of a volume of 100.
Oh yes.
There's so much more to say. So I thank you, Adam, for what you're doing. With this YouTube channel, this casting. This is useful, I think, to many. I hope all in your audience, which will hopefully be a growing, expanding audience, will appreciate what you're doing as much as I do.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. it's been a slow burner, but I'm gonna keep on going as long as I can. And yes, yes. All right. So thank you so much. And yeah, I hopefully one day I can meet you in person and thank you in person.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Great. You're welcome,
Right.
and thank you.
All right.
Thank you for watching part 2 of my interview with Professor Pinkston. Please like and subscribe to my channel, check out my merch, and stay tuned for next week. I have another special treat. You get to meet my inspiration when I was a kid, inspired me to pursue STEM education. She's my cousin, Kristen Lynn. You get to meet someone that I'm related to. Stay tuned. It's a very special interview. Thank you and see you next week.